Welcome back, Proppers. This week's project will be the Creeper from the movie Jeepers Creepers. We're starting out with a template for my trusty skull. I'll spare you the details because you've seen this in my last 3 videos. What we will be doing different here is heating up the bottom section and stretching it out to be a little wider. This section of the project is made out of 6mm EVA foam. After widening out the bottom section, I'll be marking out the position of the overlay. The overlay will encompass the majority of the face, excluding the mouth and chin section. When I'm satisfied with the position of the overlay, I'll transfer it onto some tracing paper. The tracing paper is a bit too thin and fragile to be used as a temporary template, and cardstock is too stiff to wrap around my EVA foam mask to get my final measurements, so I'll transfer the image on some sturdy brown wrapping paper. I first attempted to get the overlay done in one solid piece, but I found it easier to work with 1/2 at a time. After cutting out each section of the overlay, the darts were closed and the pieces were hand-formed before being attached together. After connecting the 2 halves of the overlay, it was attached to the main body with contact cement. All of the seams and transitions were smoothened out with my Dremel rotary tool. The nose was then created out of a split section of EVA foam dowel. After the nose was formed and locked into shape, it was attached to the face with contact cement. Some foam clay was used to add definition to the nose. The mouth cavity was then marked and cut out. After smoothing the edges of the mouth opening with my Dremel rotary tool, all of the facial features were mapped out. The facial features were made with my USB soldering iron, my drummer rotary tool, and the X-Acto knife. The heat gun was used to accentuate all of the openings. All of the facial webbing claws were created out of 2mm EVA foam wrapped over foam dowels. To create the claws out of the foam dowels, the drummer rotary tool was used. Two claws were inserted on each side of the forehead, and 3 more on each side of the face. The claws were all hand-formed and attached with contact cement. A piece of 6mm EVA foam was used to form the teeth. After forming the teeth, they were attached to the mask with contact cement from the inside. I attempted to start doing some of the facial details with foam clay, but my clay had gotten very sticky and hard to work with. So I transferred the clay to a more temperate location for the night and got started early the next day. Mucho mejor. The foam clay was more cooperative after getting a good night's rest in a cooler location, so I finished up all the facial details. While giving the foam clay a chance to set up, I got started on creating the neck and shoulders, which will also act as a stand. This will be made out of 10mm EVA foam and will measure approximately 10 by 6 inches. The corners will be rounded over and a 2.5-inch hole will be cut out of the center for the neck. After hand forming the shoulders, the neck will also be created out of 10mm EVA foam and attached with contact cement. The head is then attached to the neck with contact cement. A piece of 10mm EVA foam is used to create a flat base for the stand. Once again, I'll be using a split plastic nitrogen delivery ball for my Guinness can fries. I'll be attaching them to the face with hot glue. As I've said before, be very careful when working with hot glue. You can get a very nasty burn. I don't recommend you putting your hands that close to the nozzle as I do. After the plastic eyeballs are locked into position, I get started on creating the upper and lower eyelids with foam clay. This is my first time using this product, and I can't say that it's for me. There are some positive and some negative aspects to it. It applies like a very thick Elmer's glue, but I realized later that I could water it down so that it'll apply a little smoother. One of the benefits is that you can do this inside. It's not heavy laden with fumes. The disadvantage, though, is that it takes a lot longer to dry, and it kind of takes away some of the detail because it's so thick. It dries clear, but I think on my larger projects I'm going to stick with Plasti-Dip. I applied 2 coats, and after it dried overnight, I gave the entire project a coat of high-performance white spray paint. Here's another product that I'm using for the first time, and I'm not sure that it's good for this particular application. But since I got started, I decided to just finish it off and use it as a base coat. It's a pouring acrylic, and it's antique bronze. I went over the antique bronze with some raw sienna and a few washes of various colors just to get this thing somewhat near where I thought it should be. I was satisfied with the end product, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd take some new directions. All of the facial claws were coated with Mars Black, and a little white was mixed in with the Mars Black to create some of the facial fold shadows. The eyes were painted bright white, and a little yellow was mixed in for the teeth. Some muted red was used to highlight the gum line. And the lips were defined with burnt umber. More of the muted red was used around the eyeballs, and the pupils were painted a bright light green. I thought the face was a little too bright, so I applied a light wash of raw sienna. I knew I'd be making a little more painting touch-ups, so I decided to move forward and make the creeper's signature hat. I started with a tube of 6mm EVA foam and cut a wedge out of one side so I can get the taper. After connecting the tube with contact cement, it was cut down to the proper size. Although it was a bit of a tight fit, I really didn't want to go too far down on his head, and I could always stretch the foam out a bit. The tube was sanded and smoothed with my Dremel rotary tool, and its entire surface was roughed up for texture. A sheet of 6mm EVA foam was used to close off the top of the hat. I just have to be careful to make sure that I'm closing off the smaller side of the tube. A wide ring of contact cement is applied so that I could also put some reinforcement on the inside. Strips of 2mm EVA foam will be used to reinforce the inside seam. The excess material for the top of the hat is removed with an inside angle. This will create a smooth and seamless transition after sanding. After the seam was sanded down, the top of the hat was also roughed up for texture. Time to pull out another tube of my HD foam to create this wide brim. It's the only foam that I use for my projects, and you can get yours at SKS Props or at Blick Art Supplies. The brim for this hat will be a full 4 inches, and we'll be using 4mm EVA foam. The 4mm foam will make the brim easier to shape and form. After locating the center of the sheet, I use my homemade jig to create the circle. The edges of the brim are rounded over with my Dremel rotary tool. And the entire surface roughed up for texture. After creating a starter hole in the brim, the top of the hat is connected to the brim with contact cement. A strip of 2mm foam will act as a brim band. It will also serve to reinforce and hide the seam. The final trimming is done to the head hole, and the inside seam is sanded down smooth. After the brim is heated and hand formed, 2 coats of Cosflex sealer is applied. This time I watered it down quite a bit to get a nice smooth consistency. After allowing the sealer to dry overnight, I gave the hat a coating of red oxide primer and a misting of black and brick red spray paint. I also went over the face again with a heavy wash of raw sienna. And that marks the end of this project. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press that like button, and press the bell notification so you'll be notified when each new project is uploaded. Next week is going to be a very special project where I'll start my iconic cult movie line. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on this one. I'm very excited about it. And I'd also appreciate your support in buying my action-adventure book, Inherent Evil. The next book in the series will be out before the end of the month. Once again, thanks for your support and viewership.